Network Listen, coming to you everywhere the internet extends. Are you ready to listen in?
Ben's Book, bringing you the world of women and books on Network Listen, starts now.
Hello, welcome to Ben's Book, where we have just pulled down from the bookshelf Jessie Chandler's Operation Stop Hate. Yes, and joining us for the discussion is Jessie Chandler. Welcome, Jessie.
All the way from Minnesota.
All the way from Minnesota. Jessie Chandler, and you can learn all about her on her website, jessiechandler.com, is typically a series writer. She is a mystery writer, and she has a series. Starts with Bingo Barge.
Murder.
It's a murder series. And who is your most popular character in that series?
Shay O'Hanlon.
That's right, the Shay O'Hanlon series.
To say that it's a Rocky, but you'll have to read the book to find out who that is.
And that we should do a whole Ben's Book on the entire series.
Oh, you should.
We will.
Okay.
Yes, but right now we are talking about your standalone. Well, although it's going to be a series, it is book 1 in the Operation series. But for now, since it's
standalone, buying it for now, yeah.
And as close as a standalone, I think, as you get.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think it's fair to call it that. And it's really, really fantastic. Like it covers a topic that is really important to cover. What brought you to this one, like going away from the Shay series and into this topic?
Actually, this is the second book I ever wrote. So I wrote it between like 2004 and 2005, and we had just had a series of school shootings in Minnesota. And I wanted to write about that a little bit. And so I crafted this story that involves a school shooting and a group distributing music on school grounds trying to recruit kids. And the real story is the investigation into the hate group and trying to break it up before they wreak terror on Minnesota. But also, it's kind of a study on family and who family is, because family isn't necessarily blood, and what people will do for family. So that's kind of the encapsulation of what it's about. And I decided to go back and take a look to see if I could actually pull this from its horrifying state after I finished writing it, and if it was revisable into something that would be readable. And I just finished the 4th Shay book, and I had time, and I thought, well, let me pull it out and see what happens. So I did, and it did take about a year and a half to revise and then re-edit and all that stuff. So
That's good, though. It's good that you took the time to make it the story you wanted to tell in that moment. So, like, you had the spark all those years ago, and then your writing took a different direction. And then you came back and you made it something new. I think that's inspiring.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And really, really sad that it is so topical, that we've had so many school shootings. I'm from Colorado, where it feels like we were premier in that, and then it just keeps getting worse, and that's horrible.
When I pulled the book back out to read it, obviously I knew it involved a school shooting, but when I put it away, when I tucked it in the drawer that would never be opened again, I thought, there's no way this will ever be relevant down the road. And when I pulled it out and reread it, it was very shocking and very sad that it's the state of the union, as it were, is not any further along than we were then.
Right.
Actually, it's worse.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to put focus on this book, because the more we can get, and some people in my life don't appreciate how much I have faith in fiction, but I think that fiction tells more truth than nonfiction can. And so the fact that this book exists and that people can find a different perspective, not just the harrowing, experiences and images that we see on the news or that we hear or read in the papers. This goes inside. And yes, it's a fictional, rendition of this, but it's still so powerful and so impactful. And the cover alone, you did a great job because it really just kind of draws you in. And then the writing, it sets a really great tone. And did you set out to maybe do a political story, or was it just this was the story that was there and you spruced it up?
It was just topical at the time when I wrote it. So it was a completed manuscript. It just needed a lot of help. And I thought when I looked back at it, and it still remains, very relevant, that it was just the thing to do.
Yeah. The thing to do.
Thing to do.
Yes. Thing. So would you like to share a little bit of the book with us?
What I'd like to read is just the prologue. And this is very different from my Shea series. My Shea series is very slapstick, kind of Scooby-Doo meets Clive Cussler meets Janet Ivanovich.
Wow, that's a good blender.
Yeah. Funny. This is not. There is some humor in it, but the subject matter is darker, the characters are darker, and I'm not to say that they're like, dark, but they are different. And so the prologue is probably the deepest dark it goes, and it goes lighter from here. So you'll kind of get over the hump right now, and then you'll be able to know that reading the rest of the book isn't going to traumatize you too badly, hopefully.
Oh, okay. That's a lovely setup. It gets easier possibly after what you're going to hear.
Possibly.
Okay, here we go.
All right. The second gunshot came less than a minute after the first. The sharp blast faded, replaced by the frenetic sound of music drumming through Sony headphones. They covered the ears of a young man who moved with slow, deliberate steps down an empty hall. Blonde curls brushed the collar of a black Carhartt jacket, and worn jeans hung loosely on his thin frame. He peered carefully through the narrow, rectangular windows on each classroom door. Inside, students cowered alongside terrified teachers. As he systematically checked one room after another, he tonelessly hummed to the thumping rhythm in his ears. Halfway down the hall, he froze in front of one of the windows. After a moment, he raised a hand and tried the doorknob. School protocol dictated that in the event of a threat involving potential or realized violence, the teacher's task was to lock down their classroom. The teacher within had followed directions. The boy wrenched violently at the knob. The door shuddered under the onslaught. He stepped back, aimed a black handgun between the knob and the door jamb, and pulled the trigger. The deafening report of the gunshot sent the still classroom into a blur of movement. Kids screamed, scrambling for cover. The teacher charged toward the now splintered entry at the same time the shooter slammed the sole of his scuffed boot in the center of the door. It swung violently inward into the woman. She bounced off the door and skidded across the floor. The boy calmly stepped over the motionless teacher and scanned the room. He reached up and tugged his headphones off, leaving them slung around his neck, the pounding bass now clearly audible. The shooter focused on a thin teen in jeans and an untucked green flannel shirt. Hunter. A wide-eyed, long-haired girl who'd been standing near Hunter backed slowly away. Hunter made a choking sound and his face blanched. He raised his hands. "No, Mike, please. What's—" The gunshot shattered the air. Hunter spun as if a hand reached down from the ceiling and twirled him like a top. He crashed into the girl. Both went down in a flurry of arms and legs. The panicked shrieks of 30 terrified students reverberated through the classroom. Mike exited without a backward glance, humming once again. 3 doors down, he paused and tried the doorknob. This one turned. He pushed the door open. A chubby man with a fringe of white hair stretched his arms protectively in front of a number of students who huddled like lambs behind him. Mike looked past the teacher and locked eyes with another student with a buzz cut and an athlete's physique. "Billy?" Mike's voice was glacier cold. "Mr. H, please move." "Mike," Mr. H said, "this isn't why you please." "I said just move." "You don't have to. Move it!" Mr. H lunged toward Mike. Blood spewed as the report of the shot hammered through the room, the concussion almost a physical force in the enclosed space. Kids yowled. They scrambled over desks and each other in an effort at self-preservation. Mike calmly skirted the fallen Mr. H. He stopped in front of Billy, who had backed up against the windows that overlooked the parking lot. "What are you doing?" Billy's voice sounded like someone had kneed him in the nuts. "What am I doing?" Mike echoed faintly. He raised the gun. "You know what." Mike's body quaked, and he shouted, "No more! Please! Shut up!" Mike stepped closer. He pressed the barrel of the gun into Billy's sternum. "Mike!" a voice shouted from the doorway. "Please, please don't!" He cast a glance back at the tall, plump girl who stood on the threshold. She breathed heavily, eyes wide. Like rats deserting a sinking ship, kids squeezed past her and ran down the hall. Mike let them go. "No, Livy, not this time." Mike refocused on Billy. Over his shoulder, he said, "Get out of here. You do not want to see this." "Dude, come on!" Olivia took a couple of steps inside the classroom. "It doesn't have to be like this. They're not worth it." "Olivia, go." Billy's eyes flicked between Mike and Olivia. "Yeah, Mike, come on." Mike dug the barrel harder into his chest, and Billy grunted in pain. Mike's voice dropped and hardened. "Hunter and this asshole did something to Otis, to my goddamn dog. We had to put him to sleep last night." "Oh, God," Olivia whispered on an exhale. Billy said, "Come on, man, I swear I didn't." "Shut up, fucker, paybacks are a bitch." More gently, he said, "Get out of here, Livy, do it now." Olivia backed away, stumbled over an upended desk. A thunderous blast chased her out of the door. Glass shattered, and the sound was almost lost in the din of screams echoing in the hallway. At last, nothing remained but the tinny beat of heavy metal rock music.
Oh, man. Yeah. That way to set a scene, Jessie. Yeah. So I'm going to read the back blurb. Sorry, I was a little taken there. The blurb. This is that you just heard the prologue, part of the prologue from Jessie Chandler's Operation Stop Hate, which we are discussing right now, teasing it, so to speak. I'm going to read the back blurb, and I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't just run out and get it, because you can't leave me hanging like that. Whew. Terror in Minnesota. Special Agent, is it Kaylin? Oh, I love that. Okay. Special Agent Kaylin McKenna and her National Protection and Investigation Unit partners are drawn into a case that started with a pair of school shootings in Minneapolis. They soon learn that a hate group is recruiting teenagers on school grounds, handing out metal music rife with violent messages, and plotting a terrorist offensive on a major Twin Cities venue. The case gets personal when the stabbing of Kaylin's brother is linked. To complicate matters, Kaylin's fiery new relationship is threatened by the return of a psycho-stalker ex-girlfriend hell-bent on getting Kaylin back. Kaylin soon finds herself in a fight for her life, and the clock is ticking. Can she prevail in time to stop the worst terror attack that has ever threatened Minnesota?
I hope so.
I hope so too. Oh my gosh. So what you heard was just a bit of the prologue that kind of starts off her investigation into this. And then the book really goes into much more about Kaylin and what's happening in her life surrounding this. Not to say that it doesn't ease up, because that is, the driving force of this is the terrorism that's present in school shootings and, oh gosh, recruitment through horrible, horrible measures.
Yeah. Minnesota, for some reason, has really been a hotbed of recruitment, especially for the Somali contingent. And I believe that we have found some of they're almost like lost boys. They disappeared a few years back, and some of them have now been found over there. And I'm not sure if they're coming back here, if they've been arrested. I just know that they've been located, but they were recruited from Minneapolis, in St. Paul. So it is very hard, and it's hard on the Somali community, because the Somali community as a whole they're very, very good people. So it's just another layer of the trouble that we are having with all that's going on in the world today.
It's heartbreaking.
It is very heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and yet tells such a vivid story and even, within just this one book. And though it's very telling that this is just book one in a series, because how can you tell all of that in, 200 odd pages? Like, that's almost impossible, right?
Yeah, there is a previous book to this that was in even worse shape than that one. And I didn't strip out maybe as many of the, this is what happened before sort of things. So I'm kind of thinking that the next book that comes is going to be the quote-unquote prologue to the series, so we can kind of address some of that. Right. But trying to keep continuity without really twisting the reader up is the key.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with a prequel. Those that will fall in love with these characters, even in such a bittersweet setting, will want to know, like, how did they even come to be on this scene? So I think follow your gut, I say.
Well, I will. Thank you, Shawn.
You didn't need my permission, but, if that's where it's telling you, if the story is telling you to go back, and go further to set the beginning even further back, I think you follow that.
Well, yeah, it's sort of dictated as well by what your audience expects, I think. And I dropped enough clues in that book, and people are like, what in the hell is this about? So, we'll have to revisit that and fix that. The one fun thing about this, it is so different from Shay. I don't have to try and think in different scenes, how can this be made funny? How can I twist this to be slapstick? So that was a little bit refreshing, and the voice is very different, and I was initially afraid that it wouldn't be, but I think it is. Then I was also additionally afraid that I wasn't going to be able to fall back into that voice after so many years, but it worked out fine.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I like when it all works out.
Me too.
Yeah, let's make it work out on a national level.
Yay! National level.
Right. Yeah. And, maybe one little book, and I don't mean that in a dismissive way, right, can help kind of turn a channel, what
it all boils down to is love and hate. And in my world, I want love to win. And in my books, love wins. There may be bumps on the road to the win, but, we, to a degree, control our own destinies, but I can control what happens in my books. And there's so much darkness out there and so much strife that when you can give a piece of hope, I think that it's a really good thing. I think it's necessary in some instances. Since 9/11, I've been I turn on the news in the morning. I make sure everything's cool. I have a really hard time reading super dark books. And so I can't reflect that in what I write. I have to reflect the lightness that's within me and hopefully spread it out a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for trying to add some light to a really difficult topic that just people in general find difficult to just even talk about, let alone delve into and create a world around that people live in and sadly people die in. And to take that and still spin it so that love prevails is a pretty brave thing to do.
Yeah, I really struggled initially with how I could put all of this together and still make a somewhat decent ending. In my story, Mike is the shooter. He knows he's the shooter. He doesn't kill himself. They take him into custody, and he's got to, pay for what he's done. But there's different things that can be done, to paying back. So you can read about that if you want. But it is a difficult topic, and people are oftentimes, as soon as I say a school shooting, they turn to their little brain. You can see it click off. And I can understand that. Absolutely. I respect that. And I do hope that the people who are comfortable enough will read the book and will see beyond, the surface, because there is a fair amount beyond the surface that goes on.
Yeah. Thank you. We're getting beyond the surface and we're letting love win here with Jessie Chandler. Yeah. So go get this book. I'm assuming it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's available as ebook, Amazon, Kobo, the Nook, Barnes & Noble. Available as a print book through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, through a number of independent bookstores, through some Barnes & Noble brick and mortar stores. If you go in there, they can order it, so it is orderable. So go get it.
Fantastic. Yes, go get it. And if you've forgotten, we were talking about Operation Stop Hate by Jessie Chandler. Jesse's got a website. Go check it out. JessieChandler.com. I'm going to spell it. JessieChandler.com.
Yay!
Thank you so much for being here with us on Ben's book and letting us tease your book, Operation Stop Hate.
Thank you so much for having me here and for doing a lot of teasing.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Ben's book.
There is more parenthetical H magic to be had on Ben's book. Afra Ben, spy, Tory, playwright, and the first woman to be paid as a writer with her own name, ignited the inspiration for Ben's book.
You're listening to Network Listen, and we are talking titles with Michelle Baldwin. Michelle, tell us about your title.
Civil War Land in Bad Decline.
Oh, whoa.
I know.
I know. It seems redundant, yet I feel it's not. It's like when I hear Civil War Land, it should be in decline. I don't want a civil war.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
not at all. Well, and the title actually refers to Civil War Land, like Disneyland. So it's a place that is, they're reenacting, and like you go there as an amusement park, but it's the Civil War land. And then it's, of course, fallen out of favor, because who wants to go and see a whole amusement park all about the Civil War?
Is there a roller coaster?
There may have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you read this book?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I have never heard of Civil War Land.
It's really good. You should look it up.
Yeah, I really should. Thank you. Everybody get out there. Civil War Land in decline. You're on Network Listen. We've been talking titles.
Lisa Ben, anagram, pen name, and the quote-unquote grandfather of the alternative press merges with Afra to round out the title for Ben's book.
All right. Hello. We are here with a Ben's book sneak peek. So I am joined by the fabulous Kim Pitzer. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Shawn Marie.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
I love that.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so good. I am ready to ReBlume like nobody's business. So I kind of buried the lead there. Yes, I did. Yeah. So we are here because you had a terrific idea. Can you take us back to that idea, and then we'll share with everyone else what that morphed into?
So I was watching TV with my husband. We were both children of the 70s. Something, I cannot tell you what it was, made me think I want to reread all the Judy Blume books from my youth.
Nice.
And it just went from there. I think summer, I never want to read anything heavy in the summer. I want something easy, and that just seemed like it would be easy. And it'd be interesting as an adult to go back and reread these books that meant an awful lot to me as a kid. So it started from there.
And then you made the mistake of sharing that idea.
And thankfully I did, because if I hadn't, it would have died after a couple of cocktails. That's a great idea, and then it would have gone away. But you took the ball and ran with it.
I did. Well, I wanted to do something for Blume.
Right.
Because she announced that In the Unlikely Event, which came out late last year, is her last long-form novel. She's retiring after that. I don't know if she will write any more children's books, but it's her last quote-unquote adult book.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. She should go back to kid books. I mean, I don't know. Is that mean to say? I've not read her adult books, so I can't say for sure. Other than Wifey, which is a whole other...
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story.
And that's a whole other Ben's book. So I was very pleased to have this idea. And then you and I sat down and sort of formed how we thought it should happen, because we are taking over the world. Yeah.
Well, we had to read them in the order of publication, like we did as kids, because I remember waiting for the next Judy Blume book.
Right.
Can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah. And since we decided it shouldn't take up our entire lives, we cut ourselves off at the first 9.
Right. Well,
Right.
I think when we outgrew that.
Right, yes,
Because
because
I
she was-
remember very specifically getting to, I can't remember what it is. It's not even Forever. It's the one before
Deanie.
that. I think it was Deanie going, it's time to move on to some of the other ones that we had discussed.
Right.
That are for another show as well. The pistachio predicament,
Yes,
etc.
yes.
So
They are inexplicably linked, though.
it's
Some
true.
of those,
It
yeah.
is true.
Yeah. So we decided we're going to read through the first 9 published Judy Blume books, and we've invited other people to join us. You and I, for the most part, I think will be rereading them.
Yes.
Some that are joining us will be reading them for the first time. And we have, as an adult, reading them for the first time. And we have a Blume age-appropriate Summer Sister.
That is fantastic.
Which brings us to the fact that we have named ourselves the Summer Sisters.
I like
Yeah.
the ReBlume. I think that's awesome. The ReBlume.
Yes, but one of her adult novels is Summer Sisters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so it's a novel.
I've seen the
It's a
cover
novel.
of it. I haven't read it because I don't read adult Judy Blume, except for Wifey, which is another story
Right,
altogether.
right.
Yes.
So we're going to meet once a week throughout this summer. We're going to tear through this canon like nobody's business at the wonderful Stark Street Pizza, which you are all hearing in the background.
With the best pizza in
Because
Portland.
you need pizza and you need a beverage when Bloom is involved, I think.
Food. Come on.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
So
I think better with carbs. So.
and because we all don't read as fast as we used to, it's going to take us the summer.
It
to get
is.
through
Although
these
I
9.
was surprised how quickly they went.
Oh yeah, they're very fast. I might have been being cheeky.
No, I had a little more trouble with one than the other, but I think I was waiting for a package to be delivered, and I
Right.
sat down and read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in between some projects, and I'm like, I'm not going to start until I start reading this, and I was done reading
Right.
before I needed to start. Everybody, order number 81 is ready. 81 is ready. So we will be done about the time, because I'm going to get all journalistic about it. I can't just have our lovely Summer Sisters discussions hanging out there like
Right.
on a cloud with nothing else bookending it. Well, we could.
You could, of course.
But we're going to do a little more, research and fun development. And I'll be ready right about the time that we would have had to write what I did this summer essays.
Oh,
Right?
fun.
Yeah. I kind of want to go to school just to have a reason to write that essay. Right? That is good. Peanut Gallery said this is my reason to write this essay. So I will do that.
That is a school tradition that should continue. Right? What I did this summer. Because
Yeah.
honestly, and I'm going off on a tangent, but for so long after K through 12 and then going to college, your life really is, the year is September to June. It's
Right.
not January to January, right? And so I was out of that long enough, I think, and then I had a kid, and it happened again that my life became September through June is the proper year. So I think we're set up to believe that
Right.
August comes around, and even if you're not in school or you don't have children in school, you're still like, oh, it's coming to an end.
Yeah. I think
So
it also...
you should write it.
Right, and or a beginning, because I think it's like so ingrained in us from having matriculated that way.
Right.
Even I had a few years of year-round school. It was a little different.
Oh, that's weird.
But I think it's like sort of like, I'm gonna get all cheesy, but in the You've Got Mail, where it's like, I give you a bouquet of pencils. It's like every fall we're just like ready to like restart.
No, I grew up in farm country, and the
Okay.
farm, like summer is harvest and farm and the whole this sort of thing.
So it's the end for you rather than the beginning.
Yeah, and that's going to come into play in discussing these books.
Right.
My rural Oregon upbringing
Right, well,
will
and-
come into play
right.
later. But
And our just being out of agrarian society enough.
I don't know that I'm completely out of that yet.
But I think it takes us back to the time of Bloom,
Right.
even with her updates, to appropriately frame ReBlume, revisiting Judy Blume. Look for it, Ben Bookers, in the fall. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Network Listens Ben's book. Want to join the discussion? Drop us a line to words@networklisten.com. Network Listen. We're everywhere you need us to be.